My name's Andria Perkins. I live in Dayton, Ohio. I'm an urban farmer. It started by first being a community garden manager, and so I was managing a community garden. We had some extra plots that weren't being used, and I planted them up, and I ended up having too much produce. There was an email sent out through the person at Metro Parks who helps with the community gardens, and they were saying, hey, there's this farmers market at Garden Station and they need new farmers, and you community gardeners out there, if you happen to have extra produce and you want to show up over here at Garden Station on Sundays, you can sell your extra produce. Well, I have 6 plots. I definitely have extra produce. I had been donating some of it to a Burundi family of 11 that I help, but there was more than they needed and more than I needed, and so for sure I just started showing up and selling produce on Sundays. One of the reasons I decided to start doing urban farming as a business is I could do it while my kids were at home with me, and the plot that I have in the backyard right here is the one I always plant up in the spring, in part because I would go out and do it while Adelaide was taking a nap. And so farming is for me a thing that has fit around my kids' schedules and is something that they can also do with me that connects them to the earth that I really enjoy. For my oldest daughter, Abigail, for her it's about great tasting food. Like, she loves to just walk out, pop a pea, pop a cherry tomato, and just eat. But for Adelaide, it's more, because she's younger, touch, feel, learning, and that kind of thing. And so it really does connect them to nature. In our society, it's so easy for kids to watch TV all day, spend the other half of their day in the car eating McDonald's. And I'm not saying that we don't do all those things, we do. But we can combat it a little bit by adding in really healthy, very local, right from our farm, vegetables, and being outside for part of the day in the farm. And so I actually have a goal of training up 10 to 20 additional urban farmers and helping to meet food needs here in the city. While I'm not opposed to rural farming, there are still needs that can be met here in the city. If you drive around our city, we have tons of vacant land, and we have a lot of housing that need to be torn down in the next 10 years. And so our city is going to become more and more like Detroit, who has looked at urban farming as both an economic development tool and a way to use some of this just vacant land that they have. They have whole neighborhoods with like 1 or 2 houses only because they've torn down so much housing there. Dayton won't necessarily look exactly like that, but we're getting there. If you think back to World War II, when there was Victory Gardens that grew 40% of the food for our country, we can get back to something like that again, where more of our food needs are being sourced locally, grown locally, and it's going to take time to do that, but just because it hasn't been done in the past 20 to 40 years doesn't mean it's not a valid way of doing things. In the age that I grew up in, farming wasn't looked upon as a career for somebody who got good grades like I did. You were supposed to go to college and work for a business, a big company, and change the world. Well, I think that it's different now. We can change the world by doing something local and here and changing what people eat and their access to good, high-quality food and not adding lots of fuel miles to our food. And so there are ways to make a difference that don't involve working for a huge company. And so for me, that has been urban farming. And I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I do believe that everybody can do something local. So even a college student can have a pot where they're growing lettuce. So there are a lot of things that people can do to contribute a little bit to their own nutrition. But a couple of steps up from that is there needs to be more people who are contributing to the larger food sourcing needs of our community. And so I hope that I'm able to be part of that, but I also think there's room for many more of me, and I'm looking for those people.